another senior communications figure, the first time he's been at the AMEC Summit. Ben Matthews is head of strategic communications at eBay across Europe. And he wants to share some thoughts on the pitfalls and opportunities of measurement in a rapidly growing, fast-moving global business. Ben.
Lovely. Thank you. Hello, hello, measurement colleagues. It's lovely to be in a room full of people who just get measurement. So I'm already off to a winner as far as I'm concerned. So I'm Ben Matthews. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the phrase we use at eBay called the tyranny of distance. Just a very quick show of hands. How many of you here work for an organisation that is active in more than one country? Okay, that's going to help this presentation. So, I'm Ben Matthews. That is my Twitter handle. Please feel free to tweet. I may well award the prize of an eBay pen to the most unflattering tweeted picture of myself, because there's normally at least a few when I do these things. So, a warning. This presentation will contain nudity, sex, violence, and a very tenuous Star Wars reference. So I'm just letting you prepare yourself now. It's also going to contain very few graphs. No, I'm sad about that. I like graphs. I could have done graphs all day long. So, about eBay. I'm kind of hoping you're all familiar with eBay in some shape or form. And this brings me to the first thing. Does anybody know what one of these is? I'm kind of hoping so. You're an intelligent audience. This is the audience interaction bit now. It is indeed. You're meant to be able to see different things in it. So, for example, I see a small man in a Cossack hat with a bow tie riding a butterfly. Anyone else? Like, there's actually a few people nodding there. That's excellent. I'm not sure what that says psychologically, though. The next question. Any idea what either of these items is? There is a cornflake. It's more specific than a cornflake. In 2008, somebody put this item on eBay. It is indeed a cornflake, but not just any cornflake. It's a cornflake in the shape of the state of Illinois. And this item sold in an auction for $1,350. The one on the right is even better. Anyone want to hazard a guess? It is a sort of, pancake's not a million miles away, but there's something very special about this. The face of? Not Jesus, but we are close. It is actually a partially eaten cheese toastie with the face of the Virgin Mary on. Or possibly either of the Madonnas. Either way, that sold on our site for $28,000. Now, the reason I'm telling you this isn't to reinforce the perception that eBay sells kind of weird and wonderful stuff, because that's not actually the truth of what eBay is now. If you look at eBay, 80% of the items that we sell on the site are new, only 20% are used. And by the way, we class both of those items as used. 80% are fixed price now on eBay. Only 20% are actually from auctions. We are a global shopping destination. Our biggest challenge in terms of communications is a perception challenge. It is the challenge that people still think of the Illinois cornflake and still think that we only sell kind of second-hand, often slightly unusual, unique gifts. And when we come to look at PR, and actually employee comms to a certain degree, this has been a driving force in the way we've started to think about how we measure at eBay. If you go back to last year felt a little bit like this. There's going to be a lot of paintings in this. I went to the Stockholm Museum, has a fantastic collection of Scandinavian art. I got inspired. It felt a bit like this. It was a tough year at eBay. We had a cyber attack, and we also announced that we were splitting PayPal from the business and setting them up as their own independent company. It was a difficult year, and it was a year where I work for our European business. I work in Richmond, in London, and our business, we noticed, because of some of these things, got a little bit more command and control. And that included in some of the ways that we were looking at measurement as well. And somebody in the office coined this phrase because they'd read a book called The Tyranny of Distance. It's about how Australia was shaped by the distance that it was from the kind of mother country of the UK at the time. And it kind of describes how sometimes, if you're not working at the corporate headquarters, the corporate centre, it can feel. It can feel a little bit like this, that you're this lone person down at the bottom, and that somewhere over there you've got a corporate headquarters that probably has a Ferris wheel. If you're based in Silicon Valley, it's got to be a 50-50 bet, quite frankly. And what we realized is, actually, it's not the tyranny of distance, because it felt like it, but it's not. It's the opportunity of distance. That rather than feeling like things were being pushed down onto us, we could actually work around the basis of we have a global set of measures. They're quite high level because we're a global business. We operate across sort of 40 different markets globally, and very different markets as well. And what we decided to do is not think tyranny of distance. No, this is the opportunity of distance. We can do some stuff here to help our global colleagues over in San Jose, where we're based in California. And also, we wanted to bring one key thing together. So, and I apologize for this on here. This is, anyone who likes English, this is a travesty. But one of the things we like at eBay is bringing two words together and just smashing them together like a train wreck, and then going, yeah, we've got a great new word. We talk about glocal. So it's global with local. We also, and for those of you who are interested, we also have the opposite of advocates to us are badvocates. Now, we've got form on this. When we look at joining up corporate PR and consumer and doing joint things, we're doing corp-sumer PR. I could go on for all day on this. It's not pretty. But we're looking at glocal. And so what did we do? We did 5 things, actually. The first thing we wanted to decide is, and we did this on a global level, was where do we as eBay fit on the kind of, over here you've got the sort of highly detailed, highly process-driven PR metrics. Over here you've kind of got, I don't know, I'd look in the paper and yeah, we definitely got some coverage. And we were trying to decide which of these 2 things we would kind of sit in. And we decided that eBay as a business has a history of, quick innovations. We were one of the first companies into mobile and mobile apps. For us, when we looked at reputation, which was what we were really focused on, and perception change, it didn't feel right at that time to go down a very sort of detailed, very process-heavy approach. Now, some of that might change, and we are in a fast-moving environment. But we went for the little guy on the left when it came to our approach to measurement. And there was another good reason for this. We don't own any inventory. eBay doesn't have any warehouses. It doesn't have shops. It doesn't have people in those shops. It's very difficult for us, given that we have 800 million items on the site at once, to do the traditional style of retail public relations measurement, where we look at We look at, did a particular piece or an area or a campaign drive sales in a particular area. It's so difficult because we don't own we don't own the inventory. And indeed, a lot of the inventory, there's only one of those items. So we went down a route of saying we're going to be a bit more nimble about this. We then looked at business alignment. And I'm not going to labour this point because I think every single speaker has come up today and said, you've got to link your objectives to the business. It is the Sistine Chapel moment where you're touching fingers. That's what you have to do, because otherwise you end up in this place of just throwing metrics and throwing scorecards and towards your C-suite, and they kind of look at you and go, yeah, I have no idea what that means. And by the way, these marketing guys over here, they've got this really cool sort of one-page thing here that says they do great stuff. Third, or 2.5. And I think this is a real opportunity. And I know there's a lot of people from evaluation and measurement companies in the room here. Joining external and internal, I think, is going to be a big thing in terms of how we measure and how we look at this stuff. Internal is the unloved child of measurement at the moment. At some point, everybody's going to wake up and realize that a large part of external perception is driven by your employees. And somebody's going to look at how we really join the dots on that. It is a massive opportunity, and it is one of the things that when I look out into the market, I don't see really advanced, cool, new, interesting, innovative stuff around internal. It's an opportunity for us. Third, we build it. And we did. We went out there and built some stuff. We looked at what we were trying to achieve from a wider business perspective. We looked at what we were trying to achieve from a PR perspective, and we tried to make it a bit simple. And we came up with three big headings that we were trying to drive. One, we were trying to drive engagement. And then we came up with some key measures that we were going to use. And these are a mix of, outputs, outtakes, outcomes. Affected volume, reach and OTS, they're standard things. We also look at hero coverage, which is more of a qualitative measure on particular pieces of content that we've really tried to drive. There's a number of criteria. They're evaluated by actual real human beings. We give them a score, and we look at how they pan out across the market. It allows us to cater very easily for the different PR landscapes in different markets. As you all know, Germany is a very different landscape when it just comes to take something like newspapers as compared to the UK. We also have an efficiency metric that takes some of these and runs a clever sort of equation on them and gives us an efficiency rating that we can track. And we also, in this one, look at employee engagement. So when we report on our scorecard, internal and external are under the same headings. Because what we're saying is we think all these things are really important, and one drives the other. Trust, positivity of coverage we look at. Again, nothing rocket science in here. We look at reputation amongst consumers. So we're trying to move down towards outcomes and see what impact the public relations work we do has on our end user audience. We look at employee trust in leadership as well. And we also look at something we've done a huge amount of work on around employee culture positivity, not engagement, culture specifically, because one of the contentions we have is that actually engagement doesn't drive culture, culture drives engagement. And finally, support. So we look at social influencer endorsement. We look at key journalist sentiment. We look at consumer sentiment. We look at employee intent to stay. And we're working on something called cerebral engagement because, quite frankly, we're not happy with a lot of the engagement matrices and surveys and models that are out there at the moment. They all feel very rational. I would recommend, they feel rational and passive quite often. I would recommend this place as a great place to work to a friend. I don't care if you would. I only care if you have. We need to change some of the way we're looking at some of the employee stuff as well. Finally, which we don't classify as one of the big three, but which is important to us as a team. We look at functional excellence. So we actually track and encourage people to put their work in for external recognition, awards, and to have it, in essence, peer-reviewed. You learn a lot that way. We look at direct stakeholder engagement as well, and we also look at budget alignment. What percentage of our budgetary activity was directly attributable to a key business priority? I'm just going to say that one, if that's anything other than really high, we get very worried very quickly. And finally, no, 4. Yes, not finally, because there's a 5th. We experiment. We try new things. Is something we do the heaven or the hell? If it's going down, we throw it away. If it's going up, we do more of it. Some things we're looking at the moment. We're looking at how do we get better around some of our social listening stuff. And we've got some experiments going on there. We're looking at how we do better integrated scorecards, particularly stuff for our C-suite. And internal, we're doing a huge amount now around culture, including, we couldn't find, this is a challenge out to the room, we couldn't find a really good way of measuring culture. Culture specifically. Most people measure engagement. Gallup kind of touches on it with its Q12, but it's not really quite there for what we wanted. We're also looking at happiness internally as a driver of culture and of engagement. Doing some experiments around it. Some of it might work, some of it might not, but we're trying some stuff. And 5, we use the language of the business. This to me is the key and links back to the business objective stuff. Our execs have a really short attention span. They are quite often highly creative individuals. They are quite often highly cerebral as well. They want something very quick and bite-sized. And actually, when we did some kind of informal feedback with them, they said that the way we were presenting scorecards, even though we thought they were really simple, they were still going, yeah, not really sure I'm getting that. So we changed it, and this is an old example now, but this was the kind of one slide. We send it to our most senior execs. It picks out the bits that we want. It's not a tracking scorecard as such, because we change it month on month, because actually some of our stuff stays pretty flat, month to month. What we want to do is highlight the good, highlight the bad. And we do it on one slide. We never do more than one slide for them. So, conscious that I am, in essence, the warm-up act for Professor Jim McNamara, who has some awesome stuff coming in a moment. So I will crack on and say, in summary, those 5 things. We looked at NIMBLE versus detailed, and we decided on something towards NIMBLE for now. But you look at that and reevaluate it and change it, and this landscape is changing really quickly. And it surprises me sometimes that the landscape is changing so quickly, yet the way we measure seems to take an age to change. It really does, and we need to get faster on that. Business alignment, not going to labor that one. Build it. Try new stuff. If you're in-house, work with your measurement providers. Tell them where you're trying to get to and get them to build some new stuff for you. Put some pressure on those guys to come up with something interesting and new. And if you're in a measurement and evaluation company, put some pressure on the business to say, you guys realize that you're kind of measuring this in the same way as, Isambard Kingdom Brunel kind of measured things when he was building the Great Western. Just push us. Experiment, and finally talk the language of the business. Those are my 5 things. There were no graphs in there. There was a limited amount of sex, violence, and nudity. I hope that was useful.
Anyone want to question Ben on the last thing? Question us, push us.
I can even tell you what if I don't get any questions, I can start telling you what the most expensive items on eBay ever bought were.
Okay, tell us that.
Gulfstream jet, 10.3 million. Less. But still valuable to someone, and so, that's great too. What do I steal? It's a great point. everything I can. I believe you steal, and you steal again. When I look at some of the employee stuff, we went out there and stole unashamedly from marketing. Marketing do stuff really well in loads of areas, and employee comms was miles behind. We didn't have internal audience characteristics. You know, we didn't really know who our audience is. Marketing's been doing that since, like, you know, Fred Flintstone times. We went out and did some of that. We're stealing some of the great work that AMEC's been doing, to be honest. You know, we're looking at a lot of that. I try and spend a lot of time in other companies trying to, you know, find out what they're doing. And most companies are quite open to letting you come in and just have a chat to them and see what they're doing. You know, we all want measurement and evaluation to be better for the whole industry, for each of us, because better for one makes it better for all. So actually, I'm amazed and always pleasantly surprised how open different companies are.
Okay, we'll take one question. Thank you.
Hi, Jenny Chapman from Gorkana. How do you think the pendulum can always swing from central to local and then back again? You know, as providers, we're sometimes caught in the middle. You know, any ideas about how can you help organizations? You know, we're always suggesting, let's review the program or let's get both sides together, but it's not always that easy. How do you think you can you know, what we can do to help that dialogue always be vibrant and continuous?
Yeah, you get a lot of churn, and that happens. You know, that happens at eBay as well. I mean, we get a lot of churn in how we look at and measure. I think there's two things. I think when I talk about the opportunity of distance, I'm not talking about just going off and doing your own thing and ignoring what the corporate centre's doing. But a smart corporate centre knows that if you've got a nimble, smaller organisation in Europe innovating and trying new things, that it can make the mistakes for you. And that actually it can go and do some new stuff. And then when you see what's worked, you can suck that back into the corporate centre and push that out. That's what I'm really talking about when I talk about the opportunity of distance. I think a lot of the churn across businesses, and I've seen this throughout my entire career, comes from senior people normally not really understanding what the core purpose and objectives of the business is. And actually, you find something changes on that, and that then you then suddenly see that the link to your measurement has been broken or severely impaired, and so then you start casting around. The best, most successful businesses have a lasting, enduring kind of purpose and objective, and that should, as a business grows and matures, become more and more set in stone. So how would I avoid it? It's going to sound really noddy, but like I've seen a lot of businesses that I've been in and also worked for where Europe wouldn't talk to the US. Or US wouldn't about measurement. They'd talk about loads of other things, but measurement was always, again, kind of the unloved child. Have the conversations, show what you're doing, and share, and then steal. Then share some more, and then steal again.
Great way to end. Thanks very much, Ben.
Thank you.
You.